I'm not sure why I'm writing this. Nothing illegal happened, or at least I don't think it did. I just can't stop thinking about it. I work in IT. About 2 years ago, at a mid-sized company in Austin, Texas, I became friendly with a guy. I'll call him D. Not close friends. The kind of person you grab a beer with every couple of months after you stop working together. Normal guy, quiet, sarcastic in that tired office humor way. Then he got a new job, some kind of contractor role, engineering support for defense-related projects. Back-end modeling, simulations, reports. He made it sound like the most boring thing in the world. For the first few months, nothing changed. We'd meet up, talk about normal stuff. Then something shifted. The first thing I noticed was small. He started calling instead of texting. Not every time, but more than before. And every single call started the same way. Are you somewhere you can talk? I didn't think much of it. I figured he just didn't want stuff in writing. At first, it was normal work complaints, deadlines, management. I was only half listening. But then he started getting specific. He told me they'd submit reports, and instead of getting rejected or sent back for revisions, the reports would just come back later. Same documents, same timestamps, different conclusions. I asked if it was just normal edits. No, he said. I mean rewritten, like the direction changes after the fact. He laughed when he said it. Not nervous, more like he thought the whole thing was stupid. We met in person once around that time. We were at a bar, just the two of us. He had his laptop with him, which was already a little weird. He opened it and turned it toward me. 2 versions of the same report. Side by side. Same file name. Same saved timestamp. The summaries didn't match. I stared at it and told him it looked like some kind of formatting error. He shook his head and closed the laptop. A few weeks later, we went out again. He was more talkative than usual. Not drunk, just loose. And at some point, he leaned forward and said, "They don't just adjust reports. Sometimes they rerun entire simulations until the outcome matches what's already been approved. The result exists first. We work backwards to justify it." I didn't say anything. He looked at his drink for a second, then kept going. And sometimes it's not even about the data. It's about where the data came from. I asked him what he meant by that. He went quiet for a moment. We get samples sometimes. Readings. No chain of custody. No classification. Just process this and don't ask questions. Stuff that doesn't behave the way it should. Signals that don't line up with known sources. He leaned back. Technically, I'm not supposed to describe that process. He picked up his beer. But honestly, I don't think anyone's paying attention. That was the last normal conversation we ever had. After that, things went quiet. He stopped bringing up work. Calls got shorter. I didn't push. People get busy. Then he stopped responding completely. No argument. No last message. Nothing. I texted him a few times over a couple of weeks. No reply. Called once, straight to voicemail that I figured he'd changed jobs, moved on. A few months later, I looked him up. His LinkedIn was gone. Not deactivated. Not set to private. Just gone. I checked the company name he'd mentioned. No listing with his name. Nothing. I tracked down a mutual acquaintance from our old job. Asked if he'd heard from D recently. "Oh yeah," he said. "I heard he didn't stay there long. That was it. No details." I've looked him up a handful of times since. No social media. His old email bounces. It's like he was quietly removed from everywhere. I keep going back to that one line. I don't think anyone's paying attention. That was the last thing he ever said that felt like the truth.
I'm a freelance journalist. Science pieces, human interest features. Nothing serious enough to get me into trouble. At least that's what I used to think. Earlier this year, I got assigned a piece on sleep deprivation and memory. A university near Pittsburgh had published a study on cognitive fatigue. They connected me with one of their researchers, a Dr. Mara Vance. We met on a Thursday afternoon in her office. No windows. Binders stacked everywhere. A standing fan in the corner that clicked every time it turned left. I set my recorder down between us and we started. About 10 minutes in, I noticed she kept stopping herself. Not normal corrections. More like she'd start saying something automatically, then suddenly remember she shouldn't. At one point, I asked whether sleep deprivation could create false memories. She said, "We're seeing cases where subjects retain memories that don't align with documented." She stopped, looked at the recorder, then at me. "Sorry, let me rephrase that," and switched into this flat, rehearsed tone. Fatigue can contribute to distorted memory recall. That happened several more times. She wasn't nervous. She was careful. Like someone walking through a room full of tripwires she already knew were there. Near the end, she started repeating the same phrases almost word for word. "It's just fatigue. It's just fatigue-related distortion. That's what we're documenting." Same tone every time, like pre-approved wording. Then the official interview ended. I physically turned the recorder off. I checked the screen and watched the timer stop. She relaxed slightly after that. And very quietly she said, "If someone vividly remembers something, but there's no evidence it ever happened, you don't correct the subject." I asked what she meant. She looked at me. "You correct the record." I actually laughed a little. I thought it was a dry academic joke. She didn't smile. She just looked tired. A few seconds later, she stood up and said she had another meeting. I left the building around 3:40 p.m. I know because I paid for parking through an app. 6 days later, I emailed her to confirm a quote. The university replied instead. Dr. Mara Vance is no longer affiliated with the institution. No explanation. No forwarding contact. I figured researchers move around. I kept writing. Then my editor called me. Not emailed. Called. He asked why I'd pitched an article based on a source that couldn't be verified. I told him I'd literally interviewed her in person. He said, "Send me the contact thread." I opened my inbox. The email chain was gone. Not archived. Gone. I checked my calendar. No appointment. No address. Nothing. I told myself I must have used the wrong account. Then I checked the parking receipt. Gone too. My stomach dropped. Not because things were disappearing. Because they were disappearing selectively. Only things connected to that interview. I dug out my recorder from my desk drawer. The audio file was still there. 48 minutes. I felt relieved when I saw it. Then I listened to it. My voice is there. Her voice is there. The fan clicking in the background. But her answers don't match my questions. Not dramatically. Just slightly wrong. Like the conversation had shifted half an inch sideways. At one point I ask, "How long did the trial last?" She responds, "That's not when they started noticing it." Not we. They. There's another section where I'm certain she talked about memory reinforcement through environmental consistency. I remember writing it down. But on the recording, she never says those words. There's just 4 seconds of static. Then I abruptly changed topics. Like part of the conversation was removed. I listened to the whole thing 3 times that night. Then I found my notebook from the interview. Half the pages were blank. Not torn out. Blank. But when I held them under direct light, I could feel it. The indentations were still there. The grooves from sentences that no longer existed. Near the bottom of one page, pressed deep into the paper. Records become memories first. I don't remember writing that. About a month later, around 2 in the morning, I played the recording one more time with headphones on. There's a section near the end where papers rustle and chairs move while we're packing up. I almost turned it off. Then I heard her voice. Not loud, just close. Like she'd leaned toward the recorder. She says, "This version stayed longer than most." I've never been able to explain that line. And I'm still not completely sure she said it during the interview.